of God. Demons tremble. Everything that is only existing because of the realness of our God. There is one God. He said, I sit up high and I look down low. It was the prophet Nahum that says, my God is so awesome that he has his way in the whirlwind, and even the clouds are the very dust of his feet. He goes for walks every day. And when you see a cloud in the sky, that's God walking along the atmosphere of his creation. And when the wind blows, he has sighed. And when he speaks, everything in creation responds to its creator. He is God. And above him, I feel my help. There is no other. Why would you serve anyone else? Why would you be so confused as to who you should be praising and worshiping? And they were wrapped up in a whole lot of foolishness, so much so until God says, who is your God? Where is your priority? Where does your faith lie? Where does your confidence lie? Haven't you heard? Haven't you even, hallelujah, memorized the words to your own music where it says some trust in horses and others in chariots, but we will remember the name of our God. Have you forgotten that the name of your God is a strong tower? The righteous run therein and they are saved. So even, hallelujah, now that the temple had been constructed and there is confusion even over who wrote this piece of music. And some say it was David, after, hallelujah, bringing God's people together to worship finally and reinstituting the burnt offerings and the peace offerings. But most say that it was Hezekiah because, hallelujah, David was not allowed to build any structure. So it was Hezekiah who was told to go into the house of God and smash all of the idols that they had allowed the enemy to bring in. So, hallelujah, there were objects of praise in God's house. There, hallelujah, were things in between them and God. And because of this, there was dryness, spiritual dryness. There were dry patches in their praise. They were trying to worship God, but how can you worship God if you really don't know who I am? You won't even give me the time of day, and you won't even develop a relationship with me. And so there was much dryness, frailty. Things were falling apart. Hallelujah. They were lackluster in their approach to God, just giving God anything they wanted him to have. And then they had the audacity to try to substitute for the only one true and living God. Listen to this list of gods they were serving now. There was Dagon, god of the people of Ashdod, who were one of the surrounding nations, who was half woman and half fish. Hallelujah. That sounds familiar, does it? So they were worshiping a mermaid, this woman of fertility, and they brought this mermaid in the house of God, and they were bowing down to this structure, and God just shook his head and said, that's not God. And they worship Baal, the god of the Phoenician nation, and in the Greek his name was Zeus, the god of thunder, and had a lightning bolt in his hand. And if you read Greek mythology, Zeus was an adulteress, fooled around with the women of the earth, anyone he wanted to fool around with, and then he'd go back with the other gods and talk about his pleasures. And Jehovah shook his head and said, that is not God. And they would even worship Molech, who had the head of a bull and the body of a man. And here was a god that the Egyptians would dedicate their children to. This is one thing that infuriated God. They would take their firstborn and throw them in the ditch, hallelujah, and give their children to a god that really did not exist. Here was the Ammonite god, even the god of the Assyrians. This is the God that Solomon, hallelujah, had turned to and built droves, hallelujah, commemorating this false God when he had turned his pleasure and his joy against Jehovah. And now the Lord is looking at them and saying, no wonder rather why there's so much confusion in my house. You all are not really clapping